Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. Why are you laughing, Andy?
Because you put on a different voice when you do your.
Everyone always says that.
Welcome to this week's Musical Talk.
All right, you do it then.
What is the exact phrase?
Don't worry. Welcome to Musical Talk. A voice from the past. This is my wonderful friend Andrew Abrams. Hello, Andrew.
Hello,
Andy.
Nick.
Welcome back to Musical Talk.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You have kind of come to London to carry on something that many of our listeners might have heard of, not maybe realise you were part of it, but tell us why you're here and what we're going to be talking about.
Right. Well, I wrote the music for the musical But I'm a Cheerleader, the musical, which played the Turbine Theatre. Well, actually, it started at MT Fest, didn't it? Because we talked then.
You did with Carrie Hope Fletcher.
With Carrie Hope Fletcher back in 2019. And of course, before the world ended and sort of reawoke. Paul Taylor Mills, who had produced that, was keen on doing a full production, which was very exciting. And so we did a full. It's technically our first commercial run of the show.
Now, Paul Taylor Mills is the mastermind behind Heathers, isn't he?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so we did that. We opened that in February, and it ran for 8 to 10 weeks, and we were very lucky. We got very nice reviews, and we sold very nicely. And so, what were you going to say? No, that was really.
I was agreeing with you. Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. So, we are remounting it at the Turbine again with a completely different cast. I think we open when do we open? We start previews the 7th of October, but we open the 14th, I think, 13th or 13th. So that's basically why I'm here.
Is it weird to be back here in such a short? Because it only seems like you were here a couple of months ago, which you kind of were.
Oh, that's great.
You're making changes. You're making cuts.
Yes.
You're working with new cast members. You've got different people with the creative team. Mm-hmm. What's it like? I mean, you haven't been here that long, have you? So
I've been here a week, literally a week. I got here a week ago. It's been fast, but we're doing it, and we're getting it on its feet, and it's been neat meeting all these new people, and they come in to play these roles that you've known for so long, and it's fun to usher them into that process.
What do you think is tell us about the show for those of you who don't know, because we are talking to a chap called Dave Bain later, who has written another musical that focuses on conversion therapy, which is a big thing for But I'm a Cheerleader. Tell us it's based on a film, isn't it?
It is based on a
cult film from the 80s.
Actually, the 90s. It was actually 1999. So it's not quite
80s then.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that long ago for some of us, but it was a cult film in 1999 with Natasha Lyonne and Clea Duvall and Kathy Moriarty, who had been in Soap Dish, and it was just a little independent film. And my writing partner Bill Augustin and I were in the BMI musical theater writing workshop in New York City, and the second year you choose a musical to write together. And we chose, and he had written a song for that film as a class project, and he thought, wouldn't this be great to do as a full production? So he actually came to me after our first year at BMI. He said, "Would you write this with me?" And I said, "Sure, why not?"
So he'd written a song away from you.
He had written one song that was just jettisoned. Okay. He didn't write the music; some other guy did, and it was for an assignment. And so we dove in, and have been working on it for a very long time.
When was this?
This was, we
19...
No, we wrote our first song in 2002 for this show. And we had our first reading in 2004 with Laura Bell Bundy, the original Elle Woods from, and Amber Van Tussle from Hairspray, and Telly Leung. And
my friend Chris Ellis, who's a composer out in Hollywood, actually lives in her old house.
You're kidding.
No.
That's totally random.
I know. There we go.
So, and Nancy Opal, I don't really know who that is, but she's a big Broadway person. And then we did NYMF, the New York Musical Theater Festival, in 2005, which was where it started to get some traction. And it has been
Did Jerry Mitchell come on board at some
Jerry Mitchell came on board in around 2010 and directed we did the reading. We did a reading of it in London in 2013. Did you see that reading?
I did, yes.
With Hannah Waddingham.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw the Carrie Fletcher.
No, Hannah. We did the full show as a reading with Hannah Waddingham and Bronte Barbet. Okay. What's that?
Hannah Waddingham playing everyone.
Playing everyone. Yeah, right. Would it still be quite funny, wouldn't it? She was brilliant. I mean, she was brilliant. She really was.
She might be in the Wicked film.
Really?
As Madame Marble?
That would make sense.
She's big now. She did a big American film or TV show or won an Emmy. Or
you're talking about Ted Lasso?
No, yeah.
Yeah. Ted Lasso's fantastic. You should watch it.
It's got football in it.
I don't like football either, but I loved it.
Okay.
She's so funny in it. Anyway, I feel like we're digressing a bit, but
it's all about you, dear.
Well, no one's
Andy Abrams.
No one's going to listen to that. So anyway, we did that reading, and then it's had various producers that have jumped on, and then for some crazy reason jumped off, and it's been a very odd comedy of errors. I mean, even before we came over here, we had COVID in the middle of it when it was supposed to get produced. Even we were about to come over here this time, there was a question about whether the Queen dying was going to cause a hitch in terms of when we were going to start and how it was going to work. Yeah. So it's just been the weirdest journey, and we all hope that this will lead us to the next steps.
I don't want to say adapting it, but looking at it from a British audience point of view and a British creative team point of view with Paul Taylor Mills and your director as well, and
Tanya.
Has that been, because it's a very American piece, focusing on American
cheerleaders, which you don't really have that.
Conversion camps, I think we have that here, but I'm not entirely sure. I hope not.
Not like what we do, though.
How's that been?
Kind of amazing. And what's been kind of amazing about it is that it's, because even though you don't necessarily have the same kind of conversion therapies that we do, what's really fascinating is watching British audiences coming and seeing what exists in America and how awful it is.
So in a way, you're saying it works better for an American, for a British audience, because we're seeing this from kind of untrained eyes, and the shock factor is bigger for us. Maybe.
I think that I don't know that I would say it works better. I think it works differently, and because we have some archetypes in there, like the dumb jock, and obviously cheerleaders have a very specific feel in America. Like, people know what that feel is, and so many of the people that will come see the show would have been cheerleaders in high school. But here, I think what I have seen, and in fact, I even got messaged on Instagram from this lovely girl who's, I think she's still in high school, she comes to all the West End shows and she makes outfits for each show she goes to. She's incredible. And she messaged me last night, and she kept saying over and over how this musical has changed her life and how it has helped her to become comfortable with herself and her, whatever journey that is for her. And we've gotten a lot of that, where people have said, I've never seen such queer representation on stage.
And the Turbine Theatre, it's in this weird kind of, if you know London, it's kind of Battersea Power Station area that's just built up over the last couple of years, and it's absolutely lovely around there.
It's so cool. And the giant, buildings of flats, they're just massive and weird and modern, and they're this is they're building an entire I don't
City
know,
or something.
well, inside
Yeah.
the power station, they're building this whole mall or something. I know it's not going to be a what do you call it? What's our mall? Westfield.
Well, what's the future for the show that you would like to see?
Oh, that I would like to see. Well, I mean,
Broadway.
I mean, come on.
Tonys,
I don't think that's hard.
Retirement.
It would be great. It would be great to.
So, well, that's a good. Do you see it being in a Broadway house?
Yes, it's too big for an off-Broadway theater. I mean, I mean, it could, nowadays things are changing where like Kinky Boots and some of those other shows are moving from Broadway to, off-Broadway. But I think I would like to see us, I mean, it's a show with at least 13 people, and it would be great to see it go into a real Broadway house. I mean, it has to go to probably go to the West End first, which, would be lovely too.
Yeah. And albums, videos?
I mean, we all hope there'll be a cast recording at some point.
There's been demand for it, I've seen.
Yes, a lot of people have been asking for it. I hope that their asking for it will at some point make it true. But at this point, one can only hope.
Yeah. And what else are you doing while you're here? Are you seeing any, planning to see any shows?
I don't think I'm going to see quite as many this time. I'd like to see some.
What did I drag you to kicking and screaming last time you were here?
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of like to see that Cabaret, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's worth seeing. We saw Back to the Future, didn't we?
Oh, we did. We did see Back to the Future.
It's got a new cast now. Roger Bart's still in it.
I still haven't seen Frozen ever anywhere.
Oh, you must see it in London. It's such a good version.
Well, maybe I'll make you come with me.
Well, it's been a week since I've last seen it, so I will happily see it again. It's a beautiful production. It's better than the American junk they put on Broadway.
Okay.
And
he says to the American,
well, you're an Anglophile, aren't you? You were telling me that you really want to move here, don't you?
well, it would be a bit fun.
So tell us about your journey. Give the listeners out there an idea. If you do want to work in London, if you do want to kind of study here, what's the kind of path that you have taken and that you would recommend people do?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many paths. I did my master's here, as you say, postgrad, at Goldsmiths as a writer, as a musical theater writer. They do have a program. What's that?
Snap.
They do have a program. Yeah. So that was one way that I got over here. Studying really is the best way because you can stay for a few years afterwards and hope to get cast or hired for something. But also too, like if you want to go through the visa process, you can get a work visa as long as you have enough work over here. And that's what I'm trying to weigh right now.
And you want to do acting through song coaching here?
Love acting. Yes, I love doing acting through song coaching. I mean, besides being a composer, I'm a musical director and an acting song coach and a singing teacher and a vocal coach.
But you've also just broken into the realm of directing. Tell us about your theatre and
I didn't just break into it, but I did do it for a while and then I kind of came back to it. But yes, I am the artistic director of a professional regional theatre, and I'm sure nobody here in the UK has heard of. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that has heard of my town.
You're probably correct, but
Madison, Wisconsin, which is, if you know where Wisconsin is, but it's about two.
They do cheese, don't they?
We do cheese. Yeah. We do beer and brats are a thing. It's Germanish.
Beer and
brats, bratwurst.
Oh, bratwurst.
Bratwurst.
So does it have a German?
Yeah, it's German and Norwegian.
Settlers and things?
German, Norwegian, and French are our settlers in Wisconsin. But we're about 2.5 hours north of Chicago. Okay. So we're not that far from Chicago. And we're an equity theater, so we hire people from all over the country to come and do shows. And we just did the regional premiere of Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, which was one of my favorite shows that I've seen on Broadway. And we had a huge response. It sold out. We added shows. It sold out. Those sold out. And I took on directing that mammoth thing. And it was, in the end, it was very satisfying. Now, I don't think you've had that show come here.
No, we haven't. I know there's big demand for it. So there might be room for you to...
I truly think that show would do well here.
What's it about? Tell us.
Well, it's a slice of War and Peace, but it's told through the lens of contemporary techno music, musical theater, Russian folk music.
The graphics, the marketing for it said Victorian to me.
Well, it's early 1800s, but I mean, it's
that kind of costumes and stuff, but they bend the music rules.
Sort of. The costumes can sometimes be a mixture of that era and a little punk, like a little contemporary. Like they try to,
like Six in a way.
Yes, it very much so. It's got a lot of music. It's through song. It's about 220 something like that hours long. It's heavy music, tons of amazing dancing, and we did it completely immersively. So and
everything's immersive nowadays.
It is, but I saw it off Broadway instead of on Broadway, and I saw it when it was completely immersive. Like it was literally all around you, and we did it. In a sort of oval in a barn, and we brought in all of our own lighting equipment, our own lighting truss, our own stage. I mean, it would cost us a fortune, but the audience was about only 100 some people in there, and they were inside the oval. It was kind of like a figure eight with a giant circular platform in the middle, and the audiences just loved it.
Would you direct Cheerleader?
I probably would. Somewhere, if somebody wanted me to, I would.
Think that's not too
close to it. I'm too close to it. No, I think that yet now it would be, but I think if once the show, I wouldn't do it until the show had done a good run, where we've seen it so many times that it's easy to do. But I would consider directing it.
And is it a show that needs to be updated continuously, or would it just be stuck in its...
I don't think I have to truly say that I think Bill Augustin, my writing partner, I think he has done a great job of, when you see that show, I can almost guarantee you there is nothing about that show that screams 90s. Like it could be now. Yeah. And yes, I mean, he does update... Because
the only thing that dates, if you were to watch Friends or Frasier, the only thing that dates something that's well written...
Clothes
is technology.
I was going to say, and their clothes.
But more importantly, technology.
Yeah.
So I don't remember are they on phones in this? They're not, are they? There's no kind of social media.
Trying to think, are they ever on a cell phone? No, because they're not really supposed to communicate outside of the camp.
Okay.
So I don't think there's a need for it. I mean, it does set it in kind of a nebulous, it could be any time. Yeah. But Bill does update the jokes.
But do you not find when you're writing a score that it's not easier but better if you give yourself an era, if you want it to remain somewhat realistic?
Give yourself what?
An era.
Oh, an era?
Sorry, an era.
Era. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like the score that I've written for this is... It's a little pastiche, but there is a sound to each character. And
would you say that's more in the writing or the instrumentation?
Writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a gospel number. There's a gospel number. There's a little gospel sprinkled out throughout other numbers. There's a couple Disney princess sounding songs, things that people will recognize as, I don't know, a style rather than an era.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that's a specific style. There's some rock. We wrote a brand new tune at the top of, this is one thing that will definitely pull it into the now. We wrote a brand new tune at the top of Act 2 called Raise Your Flag, which is basically a drag queen number that is techno.
Okay.
And it's very, very, it was meant to be very, very much along the lines of Drag Race.
Cool.
So... There you go.
Yeah. Well, all the best of luck with it, Andy.
Thank you.
Again. It's lovely to have you back on the show.
Good to be back.
Changing the tone entirely, but sticking on the theme of conversion therapy, I spoke to writer, director, creator Dave Bain about his musical that is soon to open at the Waterloo East Theatre, Last Sales Conference of the Apocalypse, which is as zany as a show like that could be. But Andy, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Here's the interview with Dave.
My name's Dave Bain, and I'm the writer and director of Schizoid Productions. We do musicals about mental health issues, and I know that can sound quite heavy. What we try and do is present the work in a way that's still entertaining for people. Our shows have a lot of humour in, which I know is you might look at the subject matter and go, that's unusual. So we try and find creative solutions to explore these topics. And we're doing a show in October the 4th, at Waterloo East. It's our third musical. It's called Last Sales Conference of the Apocalypse. And we're currently right in the middle of rehearsals. So exciting, busy and stressful at the same time.
Yes, David, welcome to Musical Talk. I've read about this show and it just sounds completely bananas, really. It's and I think it's good, as you said, to kind of look at mental health and kind of the only ways to. You can answer this better than I can because you have a you're a psychotherapist, aren't you? So it's kind of interesting to hear your angle going into that professionally, really. But would you say comedy is one of the best ways to explore those kind of issues without making it too of a distressing evening for the audience?
Yeah, I think so. I think the route we try and take in these shows is the first act is lighter and comic, and it kind of gets the audience on your side, I think, and then it means they're ready for a bit more heavy stuff, so to speak, in the second act. But yeah, I am a psychotherapist as well. I've been working in the support sector for 12 years. And I've worked with a lot of people suffering from trauma, so suicide, child sexual abuse. And as I made this career transition, this was about 12 years ago, it sort of ended up feeding into my creative work. I've always written and I used to perform, not anymore.
Just write the stuff for the other people. That's what I do.
So it was this sort of natural progression of my writing, I think, to explore these topics.
So when did the idea come to you for this show story? Was it gone?
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years ago, and there is an immersive element to our shows, so the audience is sort of part of the narrative. And I thought it would be fun if you had a show that was set up as a sales conference, and then somehow a nuclear missile sequence is triggered, or a nuclear missile is even launched. That's what I thought at the start. What if we launch a missile and these people, let's just say they're in a bunker. Mm-hmm. So the last survivors of the world are the audience members and the people on stage. And that was how it started.
And where does this missile come from?
So they're actually at a sales conference for a weapons presentation. So they're in a defense bunker. So in the play, we start with the IT support team. And they're getting a bit bored before the sales presentation starts. So they hack into the main server and they accidentally trigger the launch sequence.
And chaos ensues, I'm guessing. So that's the concept. And it's always easy to come up with a concept, but it's harder to come up with a story around that to make the audience, trigger, latch onto certain characters and emotions. I guess the concept came first, and then the hard bit of trying to work out the kind of emotional arc happened, didn't it?
Yes, you couldn't put it better. So, the setup is kind of it's Doctor Strangelove meets the Wizard of Oz. So once this missile sequence is triggered, they try and fix it, but inevitably they make things worse, and the IT and support team end up passing out. So the last 2/3, the majority of the show is inside the lead character's imagination. So he's actually a writer. That's what he wants to be. He doesn't want to work in IT. So in his imagination, in his subconscious, he imagines himself as a director. And then he starts directing his colleagues to have roles in his different franchises, TV franchises.
And you are the writer and director of this show, Dave. So is there a bit of kind of biography stuff going on in this piece, do you think?
I don't know what you mean, Nick. I can't see that at all.
So what kind of musical world, because you're the composer as well, what kind of musical world do you do in this? I guess you can do whatever the heck you want, can't you? Which is kind of one of the fun things about musicals.
Yeah, so there's 4 characters in the show, and each one has their own style, which is reflective of their personality. So Sam, who runs this IT team, he loves old school musicals. So his songs are sort of 50s, sort of British 60s kind of numbers. Then you've got the salesperson called Aisha. She likes funky stuff, so she's got a sort of very dancey kind of tracks. There's a DPD delivery person in the show, and he is sort of quite melodramatic. He's got a sort of dark past, so that comes through in the music. And then the main technical support person is a character called Stats. She likes electronic kind of music. So you get all these sort of styles mashed up. And then at the end of the show, all these styles sort of come together, I guess, to more sort of classic musical numbers. So it was very fun to write the music.
And is that presented through backing tracks, or do you have live players on stage, or both? How does that work?
We're sort of fringe plus company, so backing tracks for us. I'd love to have the money to do to have musicians, but it's just not.
But sometimes you can't with a small group of players on stage. It's hard to denote such diverse styles. So with backing tracks, as long as one has the time and expertise to do it, you can do a lot more different sounds, because obviously you couldn't do that with, I don't know, a harp and a cello on stage. As much as it would be fun to hear techno music played by a harp and cello on stage, it's probably the best choice to make, I think, for a show like that. And where do you draw the line with comedy versus mental health issues on stage?
Yeah, I think I'd go back to the sort of overarching structure of the shows we do. The first act is in the main comedy, but you get hints of the characters' histories coming through. So the battle really in Sam's head is to process some memories from a sort of traumatic experience he had when he was younger. And all the other characters have sort of arcs as well. So him trying to get everyone to act in these shows is really a distraction from what he actually needs to be, where he needs to be. And slowly as the play progresses, like the other characters trying to assert their authority over him. So he's not the director by the end. And he's much more just overwhelmed with his memories, and then kind of being forced to sort of reprocess them by living through them again, if that makes sense.
And without revealing anything, how do you end a show like this that has such a wonderful, weird way of telling it?
Yeah, it's got I think, one thing I'm very proud of on our shows is I love to go to shows where you do get a very clear arc. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there is an end. And there's a very clear end in this show. There's a sort of meta-narrative of basically they've got to shut down this launch sequence. That's one thing. Then the other thing is the characters in their subconscious trying to reconnect to what they need to remember, ultimately so they can shut down this launch sequence. So it's quite a punchy end. I think it'll be fun for the audience.
It sounds similar, because you are from Schizoid Productions, which is I guess a troupe of players, if you want to use a technical term. You've done shows in the past. I presume you'll do shows in the future. But tell us about that and the kind of the structure of the company.
Yeah, I set up the company about 7-8 years ago. And as I said, I'd already been working as a therapist for 6 years. And prior to that, I'd written sort of comedies, and I used to do stand-up a bit. So glad I don't do that anymore. But so I wanted to write something with a bit more depth. So the first
Bain and Abel, you were called, weren't you?
Bain and Abel,
yeah.
Yes. Oh, well done. Yes, so it was actually double act with my wife, and she was definitely the funny one.
Okay.
Obviously. That goes without saying. So the first show we did was called Game Over. It was about suicide. So it was a game show basically set in the afterlife. So when you arrived at the show, you met these two characters who'd already committed suicide on the same night. And they meet Death, and Death tells them, you guys are in limbo. I'm afraid one of you has to go back to your old life because there's been an accounting error. And then the game show basically is a device whereby Death uses it to decide which of them is going to be allowed to stay dead by playing these sequence of rounds. But as they play through the rounds, their history gets explored. So that's kind of how that one worked.
That sounds like it could be an actual Japanese game show by the sound of it. It sounds.
Yeah. And the thing is that, again, the audience were part of the show. So they're we brought someone up from the audience to do the scoring. And they just having that connection with people, it just lifts the experience, I think.
Reminds me of Cough, or whatever it's called, the play about the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire scandal.
Oh, right.
Where the audience the end of Act 1, the audience voted as to whether they think Major Ingram was guilty, and then they present the case, and then at the end of Act 2, the audience vote as to whether they think he's guilty, and of course our opinion has completely changed on him. And also, I mean, you get that in... did you ever see The Mystery of Edwin Drood, where the audience get to vote as to who they think the killer is, and then the story changes depending on, who the killer is. So they had like 14,000 different endings that the cast had to learn. And I love how everything is immersive nowadays. It's certainly very popular, so I'm glad you're continuing that trend. But you do have the same people in the shows, is that correct?
No, this is an entirely new cast. So it's effectively an LGBTQ cast, because one of the themes is conversion therapy. So it's very important for me to have LGBTQ actors. I'm not directly in the community. I'm an ally, and we've had some consultants, LGBTQ dramaturgs, working with a charity that also supports people that have gone through conversion therapy. And I've worked with clients, that from the community as well. So there's been a lot of consultation about that, because I really wanted to try and handle that as sensitively as possible.
And it's interesting. We're talking also in this episode about But I'm a Cheerleader, which also explores conversion therapy. And is it still going ahead? Is it still something that happens?
It's been banned for most people, but it's not been banned for trans people, which is outrageous.
Well, hopefully shows like this and stuff can, really spread awareness about it, which is good. So where are you now? I mean, I know you're in your studio right now, but where are you mentally right now for the process?
Yeah, I think we're kind of 2/3 of the way through. I had my first sleepless night yesterday, so hopefully that's the first and only one.
I know you're very nervous about talking to me, but it's all right, don't worry.
So I think we're getting there. I can sort of see the dots joining up now. This show is complicated. It's the biggest show we've done. There's 15 songs. We have a set designer, which we've never had before. We have a black box before. We have a lighting designer where we're trying to program lighting cues before the get-in, because that's very stressful.
Yep.
So it's just on a much bigger scale, and the story is on a bigger scale, really. So I think it could shape up to being great. And we'll do that. We have 1.5 weeks left, so
be fine. And you're in the Waterloo Theatre, is that correct?
Waterloo East.
Waterloo East, yes. I think, is that the theatre that British Rail use to put on productions?
I think the connection is that it's owned. It's basically sitting under a railway line, so it's a tunnel.
Yeah,
and it's owned by British Rail.
Yeah, I think they do like pantomimes and stuff there. They all kind of get together and because I've worked on a show there myself years and years and years ago, and I believe it's kind of their local theatre when they're not on strike, of course, which is lovely. And it's a good space to work in. I seem to remember. Tell us where people can go to find out more information should they wish to see it.
Yes, so the website is lastsalesconference.com, or you can go to the Waterloo East website. But on our website, there's lots of promo information. We've got some songs on there. Mm-hmm. You can download, listen to the whole album, lots of information about the cast. Show is from the 4th of October. We run for 1 month. So please do come. And we also have, if you're aware of Big Brother, we have guest appearances from Marcus Bentley, who was the voice of God in Big Brother. I don't know if you remember him.
I do, yes, yeah.
Yes. So originally I wrote the show with him in it, and then I thought, I'll just get a Big Brother impersonator. And then I thought, why not get in contact with him? And I was quite amazed to get in contact with him. And not only was he up for recording the audio cues, he wanted to come and do it live. So he is in the theatre from Friday through to Sunday. So if you come to a Friday to Sunday performance, you'll be sitting with Marcus Bentley.
Very exciting. And if we were to play, with your permission, a song from the musical that's your favourite, I know it's always hard to choose a favourite song. What would we choose? And tell us about the song.
Yeah, I think the song would be Dancing With You. So there's a section in the show where they do a Regency period drama, very badly, I think it's safe to say. But there is a waltz in the second act, which I'm very proud of, called Dancing With You. And it's got a very nice, it's got a good combination. It's got a strong tune, but then there's also, it integrates very well into the action. in terms of the spoken bits. It's probably the most musically thing I've written in the last 6 years, so I'm very proud of that one.
Lovely. Okay, we will play that. And who's appearing in this recording?
So the recording is, I tend to use the same vocalist I've been using for the last 6 years. So it's Harry Boyd, who he was in Buddy, the musical, a couple of years ago. And then he's now in the cast of the show What Goes Wrong. He's done a few West End appearances, and he went on tour with them for last year. So he's becoming quite famous, actually.
Brilliant. David, thank you so much for talking to us about the show. I look forward to seeing its progress. Here is Dancing With You, sung by Harry Boyd, correct?
Harry Boyd, yes.
Harry Boyd, and thank you so much. And we'll have you on again soon, I'm sure. Good luck with it all.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
All through the night we will play the same game. Step to the right, let our feet take the blame. Turn face to face, hold your gaze in my eye, hoping that smile won't lie. You're hot, you're cold, you're pulling away. One touch, one side, I want you to stay. We don't know what we need. It's hard to take it all at this speed. We don't know what to do, but stay dancing with you. Or you might lose the beat. To the left, find the one you must meet. 5 moves apart, is this distance too far? Hoping that we'll still spark. You're out, you're in, you're turning away. One look, one glance, that means you might stay. We don't know what we need. It's hard to take it all at this speed. We don't know what to do, but stay dancing with you. When I know it feels right, needing to hide, it's too much of a fight. Someone to love, but I'm stepping away. I can't seem to find my way. I'm out, I'm in, I'm turning away. No looks, no glance that could make me stay. Can't you see me? Don't you care? Don't forget me, I still want you there. Too much trouble to start, too much pull on my heart. We don't know what we need. It's hard to take it all at this speed. We don't know what to do, but stay dancing with you.
Dave Bain there. Thank you for letting us play that song as well. What's your plan for the weekend? I mean, it's always interesting speaking to writers of shows. Like, they're here, they're doing rehearsals. Where are you in the process?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, we literally just started staging yesterday.
Okay.
So the music was Tuesday through Thursday, and then we had a read through, and they literally started staging yesterday. So it's all cylinders go. Like, it's firing on all cylinders, as they say. So,
and are you making cuts as you go along, or are you making cuts prior to it?
No, we made cuts prior to it, and I mean, we still have made a few little ones since we got here, and you know, we may. I don't know that we'll do too much more cutting. We might
rewriting.
No, I mean, I don't think there's time. I mean, I think I know that our director has suggested a couple of little musical incisions to where something is somewhat repetitive or something, and I am absolutely open to that kind of thing, because if it cuts our show down in time and it still accomplishes what it needs to accomplish, I am on board.
Cool. well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing it again.
Good to be here.
Andy, thank you so much. And that's it for this week's episode of Musical Talk. Leaves me nothing more to say than goodbye. And thank you very much for listening.
For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.